Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm often asked, is there anything good that you have to say about Apple products? And there are actually several good features of Apple products. You may wonder why I don't discuss them. Well, I don't really have a review channel here. I don't review specific devices on a regular basis and go over why the Dell XPS whatever the hell is better than this. The channel is really just named after me, so I just discuss whatever's on my mind at the time. In the beginning of the channel, I would focus on what it's like to run an independent repair shop, some of the mistakes that I've made trying to start a new business from a company that did very well and a company that failed, and I just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind that day. And after a few years of having my channel, I discussed some of the things that are aggravating about working on Apple products from the standpoint of an Apple product repair business owner. So I do understand that there are actually reasons that people purchase them. People are not idiots. They buy them because it actually does the job. It suits what it is their needs are. And if a product allows you to get your job done quicker or more efficiently so you can get back to doing things you enjoy, or it helps you do the things that you enjoy in a more efficient and productive fashion, then by all means use whatever works for you. I really don't care. I don't have any sort of personal investment there. Now, I will explain in the end why I want people to purchase less of them, but that's separate from me understanding why people like the product. Now, there are several features that they have that even I can notice are features that are really just nice features. So the first feature is the whole time machine and migration assistant thing. I think the way that Apple has handled backups for the last 12, 14 years is just head and shoulders above how you handle it on Windows or on Linux systems if you're talking about ease of use for backups. So if you have a hard drive, let's say you have a hard drive and the operating system has become corrupt so that you cannot boot, you can't fisk-fy, you can't disk warrior or anything like that. Very often with a Mac, if you install a newer operating system or even the same operating system on another hard drive, you can plug in that hard drive that stopped working, that's not, I shouldn't say hard drive stopped working, where the operating system stopped functioning and has crashed entirely, and you can migrate over all your stuff. When I say all your stuff, I don't just mean your files. I mean your settings, I mean your programs, I mean the settings of those programs, and you don't have to worry about crap like files hiding somewhere outside of the app data folder, where you could literally have your desktop back exactly as it was before, with every setting perfectly there, without actually having done a clone. You can choose, do I want to migrate user accounts, do I want to migrate other data, do I want to migrate applications, and you can really migrate everything over. It's a really nice backup solution. I think Time Machine is a great backup solution, but primarily the way Migration Assistant works just seems head and shoulders above what you have for Linux and for Windows when it comes to ease of use and usability. For me, I usually just make a clone. Once I am at a place where I know I have everything exactly the way I want, I will have a physical clone, so I have all my stuff there, so I don't have to worry about reinstalling and having to deal with, because with Windows, if Windows crashes, you have the option to reinstall, and it will copy your files over, but it copies your files. Not your programs, not the settings within those programs, and it is a miserable, utter nightmare to sit there setting everything up from scratch. And granted, you can find other backup solutions to do what you want, or you can, make the time to do regular clones, but I find Migration Assistant and Time Machine to be just awesome. It's very, very simple to use for a user that doesn't understand computers and makes backups easy as pie. Second aspect I like about Apple products is the concept of taste. I'm not talking about, durability or making hardware that lasts taste. I'm talking about just the general user experience. So, for instance, around 2010 with the MacBook Air, they decided that even if you buy our cheapest computer, even buy the cheapest laptop that we sell, we are going to give you a solid-state drive. We're not talking about the A1304 in 2009. That doesn't count. You don't mention the A1304 in this channel, or the A1237 and their beeping MCP79Us. Yeah. But in 2010, they said, if you are buying even the cheapest computer from us, you are not going to deal with a spinning hard drive because that is a miserable user experience. Apple realized early on and accepted that hard drives were a garbage user experience. The 52400 RPM drive that you use as a boot disk, just no, we're not doing that anymore. Now, will users complain that they are getting less space than advertised? Probably, but fuck them. They don't have taste. Will they complain that it's more expensive, they have to upgrade? Yeah, but fuck them. If they want it, they can afford it. What they had is a vision, which is that when you have a MacBook in front of you, it is not going to be slow to load basic programs. which is why people like even my girlfriend hated the HP that she had, but she loves the MacBook. She doesn't know much about computers. She has no idea that the only thing that makes her MacBook faster than the HP that she hated, even though the HP had a better processor speed, is that this comes with an SSD. And let's face it, most computer users have no idea, no concept of what it is that makes it better or worse. They just turn it on, it's like, wow, on this one, when I open programs, they open instantly. Now, most people are not buying the computer so that they can compare FFmpeg encoding times on their, doing X265 encodes of their archives. So technically, you could be better off if you put more of your money into a better processor than into a faster drive, if you cared about that stuff. But 99% of the users, they notice a difference in things like boot time. They notice, oh, this program opens way faster now. So they cared about that aspect of the user experience, and they had the balls to say, we don't care if it aggravates people. We don't care if we potentially lose some of our customers. We are going to ensure that when you buy a machine from us, that when you start up basic programs, even on the lower end models, it will start fast. And I appreciate that. It's one of the reasons that I really got on their case when the 2019 iMac at over $1,200 still came with a 5400 RPM or 70. It was, I forget if 5400 or 7200. It was a fucking spinning hard drive. It's disgusting. And because this was them kind of forgetting why it is that people value what Apple provides, which is taste in the user experience. In 2013, they went a step further and said, not only are we going to be putting these drives in there, we are going to put PCI Express solid-state drives in there. Because having your 200 to 500 megabyte per second, that's not good enough. We want 1 gigabyte to 2 gigabyte a second read and write so that you really have the snappiest part of the user experience. So we are going to take the primary bottleneck that we all know exists, and we're going to completely get rid of it. We don't care about the controversy. I respect that. Secondly, when it comes to screens, there are certain models where this was not really true, like with the 2008 A1278, where they used an LP133WX2 TLC1 or C2. They upgraded that later to a B133 EW04 in 2009, and also an LP133WX3 TLA1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 later. But when they came out with, but for the most part, besides the LP133WX2 TLC1 and 2, they offered an excellent screen in a lot of their low-end machines. Again, was it always a perfect screen? Was it the best screen? No, but when you bought an Apple laptop, most of the time you weren't buying a machine with a screen that was total garbage. Well, for me, I remember when I bought my ThinkPad T440, I loved that ThinkPad T440 after I got rid of at least the shitty trackpad. I liked it as a computer, but I had to buy a screen online and replace the screen that came with it because the screen that came with it was unusable. The black levels and the light was so bad, the contrast on it was so bad that just reading basic text, to me, was actually painful. It was that effing awful. Whereas with a lot of Apple laptops, even if you're not getting the best, top-notch, best-in-class screen, when you buy even, an $800 or $900 MacBook Air, you're not going to get something that makes your eyes bleed. With PCs, it's very easy to spend $1,300 or $1,400 or even $1,500 on a PC laptop and get, back in the day, a 1366 by 768 TN screen that wasn't even a good quality TN screen. It was like a shit quality TN screen. Now, you could configure the machine to not come with that screen. You could configure it separately. But you had the option, if you just bought the base model, to get one that made your eyes bleed. With Apple, they don't usually give you that option. Even if you buy the base model, you're getting something with a really nice screen, which I really appreciate. They said, listen, we're not even going to give you the option of getting a screen that sucks, except for the 2008 LP133WX2 TLC1. We're going to give you a good one. And further with this, scaling within the operating system. When they released the Retina screen, by the way, in 2012, they decided high-resolution screens are the way to go. Not only are we not gonna, we're not gonna give you that 1366 by 768 bullshit if you spend over $1,000. We are going to make it some ridiculous 25 something by 14 or 16 something. Even if you buy the lowest end A1425, the lowest end machine, that says Pro on it. We are going to give you a super high resolution screen, and they continue doing that as they move forward. And at that time, scaling, the scaling that you get in OS 10. 8 years ago is better than the scaling you get in Windows right now. There's no arguing this. Like I use Windows on a regular basis. I use video editing programs. I use productivity software, all sorts of stuff. Some programs get scaling right. Some it's a total clusterfuck. When you scale that little bar back and forth, sometimes the text in the programs doesn't fit. If I'm opening up a VST plugin in Vegas, either everything will be super teeny tiny, or it'll be really blurry and very, very poorly anti-aliased, or it'll have or it'll be like so where it takes up the entire screen. Like a lot of it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, people say, well, that's on the software vendor for doing it that way. That's on the software vendor that for making it that way. But at the end of the day, on a Mac, virtually any piece of software that I open, anything I open, looks normal. And adjusting the scaling is very easy. On Linux, not even going to get into that because it's like this. Don't torture yourself with like 4K or up on Linux with basic programs. And with Windows, it's really hit or miss. Depending on the program, it can be very hit or miss, and it's just not the same. The scaling that you get 8 years ago in OS X, 8 is still, in my opinion, in my experience, better than the scaling I get on Windows or Linux in 2020. There's a lot of small areas where the other one that I found in the beginning, battery life. Now you have machines where they're catching up to Apple in terms of battery life. But, 8 years ago or 9 years ago, the idea that you're going to have maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 hours of battery life out of your computer, for a lot of laptop manufacturers, they were just not able to catch up with Apple when it came to battery life. They really value that. Good screen, boots up fast, battery that lasts a ridiculously long time. Just things that matter to normal users. Now, were they always the most durable? Hell no. Were they most repairable? Hell no. Were they the best specs? Not really. But there's general elements that mattered to users, to the user experience, they always had their eye on, whereas other companies, they weren't. And you understand why they're not, because the hardware vendor and the software vendor are separate. So hardware vendor puts in a shit screen. Software vendor makes software that only scales under certain circumstances. Operating system vendor has kind of mixed up scaling thing. It's not the same as when the person making the operating system is the person developing a lot of the software that people use on the platform, is the same as the people actually designing the hardware. You get that type of integration together, and you do genuinely get the type of user experience that you're not going to get otherwise. So why is it that I recommend people not buy Apple products? I don't recommend people not buy Apple products specifically because my personal opinion is that they are not as good or that you will not be productive with them. That's not the case at all. My case for people not buying them is when someone comes into my store and say with an A1226 that is a GPU failure that Apple claims on their website they cover, and they tell me something along the lines of, I took it to the store and they said that, if it fails this test, that they'll replace it. But the machine doesn't turn on, so they can't run the test, so they're not replacing it. And I would tell the customer, well, the whole reason the computer's not turning on is because the fucking GPU is dead. That's what they all do. They don't turn on and crash. They just give you a black screen, and they don't post when the GPU is dead on this particular model. And they go, oh, wow, so they tried to scam me? And I go, well, yes, they did, in my opinion. And they'd go, oh, okay. And they go back to the Apple store, and they'd buy a early 2009 A1286. The company that they just admit scammed them, they're just going to give them another $1,500. They get a machine where the fans exhaust the air onto the back of the machine rather than out the sides. And the back of the machine has the LCD screen assembly, and it's two pieces that are glued together. So every time you move it back and forth, you are ungluing this section that is being heated by the computer to the point where it literally falls apart. They go to the Apple store. They say, oh, you must have broken it on your own, $1,000 or more for a new assembly. They come to me. I tell them, oh, yeah, not only is it broken, but this part is not available and they won't sell it to me. And they're like, go back to the Apple store. They buy 2011, same GPU failure. They didn't cover it until 2015. So if you had used that machine for 3 years, 2 years, went back to the Apple store and the GPU failed, they'd say, sorry, not our problem. So what do? Go back to fucking Apple's and buy the same thing again. What bothers me, I'm not saying that there are not reasons to buy their products. There are many reasons to buy their products, and I can acknowledge where I think, in my opinion, they do better than their competition and just basic user experience. It's when they screw you over and over and over again and you still go back to them and give them $1,000 or $2,000. That's what drives me up a wall. At what point will you at the very least say, you know what? Fuck you, Apple. I'm stuck in your ecosystem. I like the product. I will buy it used so that you don't profit off me again. Like, how many times do they have to screw you over before you decide I'm dumb? That's where I will typically push back on people and suggest if you want things to change, if you want them to treat you like a customer that matters, if you want them to actually cover defects in their products, what you will do is you will stop giving them money. Not even stop using it. Just stop giving them money. The used market is filled with machines that people are more than happy to sell you. But I completely understand and recognize that there are many things that make the product useful. I don't use them because I personally find it to be a pain in the ass when I need to look up how to do something and it's much more difficult on an Apple product than something else. These things I see as the company looking to control me, and I don't like it. Whether it's using an accelerated systems controller on a bike where the programming and the shit is locked and it's a pain in the ass and the support sucks, or whether it is an Apple product where I want to upgrade the drive, and oh look, you use something that looks like an M2 form factor that uses the same protocol as a PCI Express SSD, but the pinout's not the same, so I have to buy yours. Or, oh, I want to replace the battery, but instead of screwing it in, you glued it in. Or, oh, I want to, I want to plug my phone into my computer and use it to transfer files to, but oh, I can't without jailbreaking it. I don't feel like relearning how to do everything so that I can use your product. I don't want to relearn how to copy files to my phone. I plug in my phone. It shows up as a device that I can drag and drop shit to. I drag and drop shit to it. I have a file structure and a system that works for me. I don't want to relearn how to use a computer or how to use a phone so that I can use it your way, which is why I personally don't use them. But simply because I don't use them doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them. Doesn't mean that there's no reason for you to buy them. I completely understand why people buy them. My issue is not with the fact that they have great scaling. It's not with the fact that they have a great backup system. It's not with the fact that they had the balls early on to say, fuck this hard drive shit, we're done. I don't care what everybody else is selling so that they can have high storage or a low price or be able to advertise this, that, or the other. We're going to advertise the user experience, which you can't see on a spec sheet, but it'll speak for itself. I admire that they had the balls to do these things. I just don't use them because I don't value what it is they value. I value just the basic freedom of user experience to be able to build my machine myself the way I want it to be, and to not have to relearn how to use a computer or a phone to use it in your way. But if someone else wants to use this stuff, I'm all for it. Our areas where I'm against Apple are when they try to make it difficult to repair their products in ways that genuinely seems spiteful to both the end user who wishes to repair their old one rather than purchase a new one, and repair shops going out of your way to have these custom chips, going out of your way to ensure that they're not sold, going out of your way to try to have a fucking YouTube video taken down 4 years ago because it showcases the page and a schematic or a keyboard fuses so that if someone gets some liquid in their trackpad, they're able to fix their computer. These are the issues that I have with Apple. I have issues when they treat their customer poorly. I have issues where they put 52 volts right next to 1.7 volt data line for the CPU and sell it to the customer. And when that 52 volts goes over to their CPU, tells them tough shit. These are the areas where I have a problem. When they release a device that allows you to grab data off of the board, and for any amount of money, will not sell that to repair shops like mine. And I just want to say, for those of you out there who offered me that device so that we could perform those data recoveries and gave them to my shop, I just want to let you know that you have all been reported to the authorities for your immoral and unethical behavior. This is what I have a problem with. But I understand why people want to use them. Anyway, this video is getting a bit long and rambly now, so I will see you all in the next video. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.